everyone. Welcome back to Coach Quip. This is episode 168. I'm Coach Robyn.
I'm Coach Chris.
And today we're getting nerdy.
We are who we are. We're always
nerdy. We asked our edge coaches what they're reading right now. I know that I have a little bit more available time right now, and let's face it, I'm always going to have a bunch of books at my house. So we have a list for you for some off-season reading.
This is one of my favorite episodes that we have now started to do this time of year because we can get so much value from our books. And yeah, like you said, we have a little more time. So here's what you should be doing with all of those bookshop.org gift certificates you got for the holidays.
First up, we got Coach Katie, who recommended The Happy Runner by David and Megan Roche. So this one I have not read, but I know about it. So basically, it kind of covers the 3 commandments of how to balance the effort of running with the joy of running, which I think if you rely on running as, part of your daily existence or your weekly existence or your existence in general, this is going to be a great one to read to make sure that we keep that balance. Because our goal as coaches is to keep you moving when you're 80 and 90 years old, which means you can't burn out.
Yeah, and your goal in the off season should be to rekindle that love so that you get back to your sport. So this is a great one. All right, Coach Dearmid said The Science of Enlightenment, How Meditation Works by Shinzen Young. So this is a great one, he says, for attention training. And, throughout the year, we've talked about visualization, about mindfulness, about focus. So this is a great one if you're curious about any of that in terms of how you can maybe integrate it into your life and your training.
Especially if that's a resolution, right?
Yeah.
Read that one.
Yep.
Next up is Coach Dan. I loved this book. I think I've read it twice. Grit by Angela Duckworth. This is one, I think we really admire people that have a lot of grit. And, she really breaks down what that means and how to get it for yourself. So even if you don't necessarily consider yourself as a particularly gritty person, I promise you when you read it, you will find nuggets of grit in there and it will be really empowering.
I feel like that's a classic now at
it
this
is.
point.
It really is.
It should be on your reading list if you haven't read it yet. Next up is Coach Cass, and I like this one.
I did not see this coming.
No, but Coach Cass says anything Stephen King. Even after Halloween. And my wife is a huge Stephen King fan, has read all of the books. I have not.
Not one?
I've not read a single Stephen King book.
Me either.
No, but I get the idea here is that in your base building season, your off season, doing anything but focusing on running, cycling, your strength training. So find something else that sparks your joy or your creativity or just helps you escape in a different way. That's a great use of off-season reading.
I have such a visual with this one because Coach Cass was also the one that her gear was the hoodie.
Yeah.
And so I just picture her like in the corner of the Edge Lounge, like all hooded up reading this book. Getting scared. Maybe cuddling a pug.
It sounds like a great off-season, actually.
All right, Coach Matt's, I love this book as well. What I talk about when I talk about running by Haruki Murakami. I've read this book a lot of times. It's a real easy read. We have it actually on our shelves right now. It is a really great way to connect with why we run in different phases of our life. It is very much a biography that he writes about how he and why he got into running. It also kind of changed how I thought about, being like a naturally fit person and that's not always like an advantage. It's kind of nice when you have to move in order to stay a certain way. And he just looks at it in a really refreshing, pure way that I think brings everybody back to why they move their bodies.
Coach Matt also had a second backup book, and it was Exercised by Daniel Lieberman. The full title of this book is Exercised, Why Something We Never Evolved to Do is Healthy and Rewarding. And I think that kind of just sums up the book, right? It's about how we weren't designed to be in the gym and doing some of these workouts, but they do have benefits for us. So a different take with a science lens on working out. All right, next up is Coach Berkeley with Rebound, Train Your Mind to Bounce Back Stronger from Sports Injuries. This one's by Carrie Cheadle-Jackson and Cindy Kuzma.
We know Cindy!
Hi, Cindy!
Hi, Cindy!
Hi, Cindy. This is a great one. This one actually really helped me when I was recovering from hip surgery. And so I read this book. We can use our injuries or setbacks or time that we have to take away from training to come back stronger. And this is just a great one to get you in that mindset of how to use your injuries to be a better version of yourself.
This book was so good for so many athletes, and it sounds so cheesy, but it truly was written from the heart. Like, both of these authors have been through these injuries, and they just want to do something to empower people to come back stronger, and it is very, very evident.
This one gets passed around, yep.
All right, next up, Coach Dara. She has a few. So Born to Run, which we all know, it is a classic. So I would, again, put that on the classic list. Endure by Alex Hutchinson, also fantastic, especially if you're looking to go in the longer things. He has... he's also a great Instagram follow. He tends to be someone who looks beyond just the miles and makes them truly matter. And then last is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I don't do a lot of audiobooks, but I've actually heard that this one is fantastic on audiobook because he recorded it.
I was just going to say, so I listened to this on audiobook, and he does these interludes where he is just talking with the narrator.
Right, because you get more.
And you get, it's like 2 bonus podcast episodes woven into the book, and so he doesn't do the actual narrating of the book, but he is in it, and it was incredible. It was one of the best audiobooks I've heard.
Okay, I'll listen to it. Okay. I've read it.
I actually can't imagine reading it on paper because hearing his voice in it is so powerful because he's such a specific character.
Coach Derek is up next with Tough Like You by Amos Soma Fuller. This one really kind of takes that total approach of what it means to be an athlete, move like an athlete, and really do it for a lot of years. And if you know Coach Derek, he tends to move and think a little bit differently than I love being next to him in class because I'm like, I'm going to do it that way, right? It really is just putting a new, fresh lens on the longevity and how to keep it of sport.
Mm-hmm. All right, next up is Coach Kat, and this book is called Better by Atul Gawande, and this is a surgeon's notes on performance. So I know we've mentioned this one in the past on the podcast. Sometimes it's really helpful to get perspectives on mastery or on greatness or on performance through a lens that's outside of sport because it can really help us identify things within our own running or training. Next up is my book. My book choice is Master of Change by Brad Stulberg. The full title of this, How to Excel When Everything is Changing, Including You, and I think that just sort of sums up our job as athletes and as people is to constantly adapt and change to the environments around us so that we can perform our best, and that's really what this book is about.
And truth, the only constant is change.
Exactly.
Just embrace it now.
Yep.
All right, last but not least, I've got 2. Nobody's surprised by that. I like to use the off season to really deep dive into other people's stories, maybe not so sports related, but just get some more fresh perspectives that aren't as swim, run, bike, lift related. First up is The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober by Catherine Gray. This one, I think, got really popular a couple years ago. It's a pretty crazy story about a mom that realized that she was just drinking way too much and decided to just cut it, and really what that first year looked like. Anybody who's sober curious, I think it's a really fantastic read. It is an extreme example, but it is pretty cool to see everything that she reconnects with, and very, very honest. The next one that I could not put down, I think I read it in maybe 1.5 sittings, was Between Two Kingdoms by Suleika Joad. That is John Baptiste's wife. I did watch American Symphony before reading it, which I liked that order. And I don't think I expected to love the book. I mean, I knew I'd like it, but a fantastic storyteller about her journey through cancer, and is just such a fresh perspective. If you've ever had that in your ecosystem, for me, it was incredibly helpful to read about what the patient goes through.
All right, so those are our coaches' off-season reading recommendations. What are you reading right now? We are always looking for recommendations, so drop a comment, let us know what's on your shelves right now. Happy reading.
Get nerdy.
Thanks for listening to Coach Quip. Original music performed by Ment. Follow us online on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Edge Athlete Lounge. Our podcast lives in the blog section of our website. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and you can check out the show notes for additional ways to contact us. Ready, set, onward we go.